4 units on any property, and upsizing from 30 stories to 40 stories in major development corridors are just two of the items in a game-changing proposal that's on the table with HRM right now, and this could mean huge changes for you and your neighbors. Not to mention, a lot of developers just hit the jackpot with this one. So we're gonna jump right into this one, as some of these are absolute game changers for development and for zoning across the HRM, and it could have major impact on your neighborhoods and on your property values as well. Now, just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name's Andrew Stevens, and I've been a realtor in Halifax for 9.5 years. If you want to be educated on the Halifax real estate market, then this is the place for you. So hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to book a call or a meeting with me to chat about the real estate market, or if you're thinking about making a move, you can do so anytime in the Calendly link below my description at a time when it's convenient for you. Okay, so there's a ton of information in this proposal that I looked at, but I'm going to get into some of the bigger ones that you should know about. But make sure you stick around to the end where I go over some of my thoughts about this and how it's going to change Halifax as well. So jumping right into it, number one is gentle density. Now, they're calling this gentle density, but I'm not sure that a lot of the public is going to see it that way. Now, with this gentle density, they're proposing that 4 units will be allowed on any of the lots in the urban service area. And if you're not sure what the urban service area is, here it is on the map right here in front of you. So as you can see, it's most of the HRM, just on the outskirts of the regional center, which is the peninsula and downtown Dartmouth. So if you're looking at the map, any of these spots in yellow that I'm looking at right now would be considered for 4 units on that lot. So it's not every single place in HRM, but it's a huge chunk of it, especially in a lot of the older neighborhoods in Bedford, Sackville, Cole Harbour, and so on. Now, the unit count would be regardless of the type. So it doesn't matter if it's the main house or a backyard suite or a secondary suite. It doesn't matter. Each one of those would count as a unit. And in terms of secondary suites in the regional center and in the suburban area, these are no longer going to be regulated by the municipality, but they have to be built based on the National Building Code. And then as far as the regional center goes, where they're the most concerned about density, in a lot of these lots, you're going to be able to do more than 4 units, depending on exactly where it is. Another aspect of this gentle density that they're proposing is that they're going to be a lot more flexible on backyard suites. So within this backyard suite proposal, they can go a lot higher. So now you can go up to 25 feet, and the square footage also increased. Now you can go up to 1,000 square feet. They're also going to allow more than 1 backyard suite per property, as long as you're not exceeding your max lot coverage based on the bylaws. And on top of that, they're going to allow any non-conforming accessory buildings to be converted to backyard suites, again, as long as they don't exceed the gross floor plan that's allowed. And the last piece of the puzzle with this gentle density aspect of this proposal is they're going to increase the maximum lot coverage as well, depending on the type of dwelling and the type of zoning that you have. All right, so moving on to point number 2, and this one is allowing for more housing along transit routes. So they're going to expand the corridor zoning to allow more height in these areas. So the corridor is kind of the main routes that you're coming into the city. So this would be in the regional center itself and in downtown Dartmouth. So these would be streets like Windmill Road, Quinpool, Chebucto, Windsor Street, Roby Street in some areas, so kind of the main roads. Now, these areas in the corridor zoning are already slated for 30 stories, but now this is going to be increasing from 30 up to 40 stories. So when I said at the start of this video that some developers hit the jackpot, imagine owning a piece of land that you could put 30-story building on, and now all of a sudden you can go to 40 stories just like that. That's a very, very quick change. So yes, some developers just hit the jackpot, especially the ones that own a lot of properties on roads like Quinpool Road. Moving on to the third point, and this one is upzoning the ER1 zone. So right now within the regional center, there's a lot of ER1 zones that are really limiting those properties to only one single dwelling unit. So a lot of these ER1 zones are going to be upzoned to ER2 or ER3. And they're going to apply this ER3 zone broadly to the ER zone. So the ER3 zone allows for a lot more options. So single family homes, townhomes, small multi-unit buildings as well, all the way up to 12 meters. And on top of that, they're going to remove the max bedroom count from the ER2 zone and the max bedroom count and the total unit count from the ER3 zone as well. So again, this is opening up a lot more possibilities for people looking to develop properties. Moving on to the fourth point. So this one is office conversion. So this amendment is very much encouraging conversions from office space to residential. And it's going to take out a lot of the red tape, especially if the footprint of the building is not changing. Now in the downtown Halifax and downtown Dartmouth zones, these are going to be exempt from a lot of other red tape that used to happen. So it's going to take out the need for a certain unit mix. It's going to take out the need for a certain amenity space, and it's going to take the need out of a development permit, assuming the footprint of the building is not changing. So again, this should speed up these developments and it should encourage more conversions from office space to residential. Now, last and certainly not least is number 5, and this one is parking requirements. So under this new amendment, anything in the regional center or the suburban area will have no requirement for parking. So this is something that started with the regional center plan not long ago when it first came out, but this is going to not be a requirement going forward if this passes. So this would be for any multi-unit buildings, single-family dwellings, townhomes, anything like that. Doesn't matter what type of dwelling, there won't be any requirement for a specific number of parking spaces, which again is a pretty big game changer in my opinion. So my overall thoughts about this is that this is an absolute game changer for our city. However, I'm not sure the general public will feel the same way. And I'm really interested to see what the feedback of this is going to be and what the backlash of this is going to be from the general public, as I feel like a lot of people will be very, very fired up about some of these proposed amendments. Now, before I get into my overall thoughts on this, to be honest, I think it's important to understand the why. So why is this amendment happening? Well, it has to do with the Housing Accelerator Fund. This was money that we won from the federal government. We had a proposal in place not long ago, and I did make a video about that at the time as well. So we got lots of money from the government, and the government rolled out $4 billion throughout the country. And the whole purpose of that is to encourage development, cut red tape, and to streamline more builds. This is not a specific Halifax problem. This is a Canada-wide problem. We have a housing shortage across the country and across North America. So this is a big reason why this is coming down the pipeline right now. And it's a big reason why they're expediting this process and trying to get this approved as quickly as possible. So just to summarize where we're at right now, Halifax is facing significant challenges regarding housing affordability and housing availability. There's been a huge uptick in population growth over the last few years, especially, which has led to a huge rise in demand for housing. And based on the current pace that we're building new housing units, we simply cannot keep up. Right now, the ratio in Nova Scotia is that we're adding 8 people to the province every year for every 1 unit of housing that we're building. This is one of the widest gaps in the country in terms of that ratio, and it's actually a bigger gap than Ontario and BC and Quebec, just for reference. Now, the highest on that list was 11-1, and that was New Brunswick, and I did make a whole video about that if you want to check it up in the top corner here. But the point is, right now, our housing shortage in just the municipality of HRM alone is estimated to be about 20,000 units short. So this problem is not going anywhere when we're adding more and more people to the province, but we're only building about 4,000 to 4,500 homes per year, or housing units, I should say, sorry, per year. So I'm no mathematician, but you don't need to be a genius to figure out that we're only right on the tip of the iceberg of where this housing shortage could go. So I do think this is something that could make a massive difference in terms of how many units are coming to the market each year. Overall, the housing crisis and the housing shortage and all of this has been all over the news, especially over the last couple of years. And truthfully, I think a lot of people want to see a big improvement there, but I don't think a lot of people will be happy to see a lot of the amendments that are proposed in this proposal. And I think that as a general statement, we really need to get out of that mindset of, not in my backyard. Halifax is growing. It's going to continue to grow for quite some time based on on all the metrics that we're seeing right now. So I really think that a lot of people are going to have that kind of a stance, like, not in my backyard. I want the housing situation to be fixed, but I don't want an apartment building anywhere near me. And that's okay. You have the right to your own opinion. But in my opinion, there's something that's on the table right now that could make a huge, huge difference to our housing situation. So I'll be curious to see how it is received by the general public overall once they start noticing this in the news. At the end of the day, the fact is, I hear a lot of people talking about the housing crisis as if we're right in the middle of it. But in my opinion, we are only just getting started, and this is just the tip of the iceberg to how bad the housing shortage and affordability could get in HRM and across the province as a whole, unless something major comes along and changes that. And maybe this proposal is that major change that we need to get a lot more supply and very quickly, and hopefully turn the corner on the housing crisis. But only time will tell, and nobody has a crystal ball. But I do see this as a major change that will make a big difference in terms of the amount of development that we're seeing in the HRM. Now, I'm sure a lot of you sitting there watching this video are probably thinking, well, I have a lot of questions about this. So I'm going to answer some of the ones that I feel like you have right now. So first of all, what's this mean to you, and how do I find out what this means for your property specifically? Well, that's a great question. And on the Halifax website, there's an interactive map. So what you're looking at on the screen now is the interactive map, and you can scroll in, you can see your own property, you can see the proposed changes to the zoning, and then up in the corner here, there's all sorts of layers that you can choose from to kind of narrow down what you're looking for. But this map is actually really cool, and I would encourage you that if you're concerned about this, take a look at your neighborhood. What is proposed to change? It might not be as bad as you think, or you could be changing a lot depending on where you're living. Another thing you may be wondering is, what is the timeline of the approval of this proposal? So I want to make it clear, this is not yet approved. This is just a proposal, and the regional council has expedited this process. So here's what the timeline looks like right now. February 16th is the last day to provide public feedback. Around March or April of 2024, the draft amendment package and staff report will be presented to Regional Council. And then in April or May of 2024, the proposed amendments will be coming into effect. So as you can see, this is a very, very quick turnaround on a major, major difference to the overall regional center plan. Now, if you're looking at the interactive map and you're really worried about what's happening and you feel like you're somebody that needs to provide feedback to Halifax, I would greatly encourage that. So if you want to do that, here's how you do it. Residents can send questions or feedback on the proposed amendments to the email below all the way up until Friday, February 16th. Any information shared with the municipality will be for the purposes of informing a report to the Halifax Regional Council in March of 2024. Now, if you're still here watching and you're sitting there and you're scratching your head and you're wondering, how could this possibly be on the table with HRM? I'm going to guess that you're not alone. And quite frankly, a lot of these neighborhoods, especially with the 4 units per lot situation, it's really hard to imagine some of these neighborhoods having 4 units on a lot. So if you're worried about this, if you're concerned about this, I'm sure you're not alone. It'll be very interesting to see how this comes down the pipeline, how it's actually rolled out, and what is actually approved at the end of the day. But if you're still here watching and you get any value out of this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content, and that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in seeing content about the Halifax real estate market. And if you're still here, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and have a great day.